tension. But here's the bonus with the bent elbow. It's the same as the bent knee.
It'd be great if we saw a bent knee already.
Alright, so once you learn one of them, you can do either. It's just a matter of going, oh, this joint looks like that joint, only one's bigger.
So is the straight knee the same as the straight elbow?
No.
Good question.
And there's actually two ways to do the bent knee. I'll show you both, and you can pick whichever one you like, but usually people are like, oh my god, these are so complicated, that everybody just goes with the one that's just like the bent elbow. Alright. So our poor dear friend here has injured his elbow and it's locked in a bent position. So my partner is going to come along and stabilize it. I'm going to come along and check for pulse. He's got a pulse. He can wiggle his fingers. Which finger am I touching? Alright. So, what I have is I have two cravats that I have folded all nice and neat. And I'm going to lay them nice and evenly on top of the non-padded side, so on top of the wood side of this board. Okay? Now I'm going to take these and I'm going to put the tails in the crook of the elbow, and I'm going to lay the padded side down across his elbow, and my partner's going to hold it on his elbow. So we can kind of rotate, we can swing that down and kind of let you all see.
Oh.
Can everybody see what that looks like right now?
Yeah.
Note the board is on top of the elbow, and all of the tails went inside the crook of the elbow.
So the padded side is out?
The padded side is facing, it's on his elbow. Padded side is facing his arm, the board is on top of his arm.
Can you turn a little bit to the left? Keep going.
Everybody good at this point?
Yes.
So I'm going to draw something on the board because I need you to understand what this knot is going to end up looking like, because it is really tricky to comprehend. So we're basically going to be making 3 U's out of 1 cravat. Did everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
So the arm runs through here, okay, and the board runs through there, okay? That just looks really confusing now.
So it's
right?
like, so is it like
Does
down,
everybody get
up,
the concept
down?
that it's kind of like a U-bolt? So I'm going to show you how to tie it now. Perfect, move back, stabilizes. We tie distal to proximal. So I'm making sure that I have the 2 tails that go with the cravat that's closest to the wrist. I'm making sure that I have not crossed them. So the one that's over on this side stays here. The one that's over on this side stays here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull them straight down, tight against his forearm, and I'm going to come straight up. So all I have done is I've cradled his arm in 2 loops, 2 U-shaped loops. So far I have a U going down the board, and I've created another U coming up under his arm, and another U coming up under his arm. I'm creating another U by tying this off on top of the board. In my nice little surgeon's knot. I'm going to tie it off with a safety. Now I'm going to leave this and go do the other side. I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm gonna make sure I don't have my tails crisscrossed. I'm gonna pull them tight as I come up and cradle his arm and tie the last U on top of the board. I'm gonna tie the tight surgeon's knot. And then I tie a safety. Now I have to go back down to the bottom. And what I'm going to do is now I'm going to secure all of this up tighter. So I'm going to take the tail. One of these tails is going to be closer to the elbow, one's going to be farther. I take the one that's closer and I'm going to feed it under the first U that's on top of the board. Then I'm going to tie it to the other tail. This is going to snug up all of the U's. Now I'm going to secure it with safety. And then I tuck all of these. Make it look all nice, neat, and pretty, even though it looks like a jumble of knots. Because it is. Again, I take the tail that's closest to the elbow, I tuck it under, I tie the two tails together. This tightens up all of the U's on the same cravat. I tie a safety. I tuck all the tails to make them look nice and pretty. At this point, because I have just done some major tying, I want to make sure he still has a pulse. Hopefully you do. You may not. Which finger am I touching? Can you wiggle your fingers? Okay. Now I have to do a sling and a swap. I don't want to put any pressure on the elbow, because remember the elbow is what's injured. So I'm going to be using a modified sling again. Alright. So again, just over the uninjured arm, lay this against. If we could lift that up a little bit. So I'm going to tie. You guys have gotten good at tying this at this point, right? I tie that. And then I come along. I do the bear hug. Under. I'm going to catch. I'm going to go right under the board. And I'm going to go between the wrist and the board. So I'm catching the hand, not the board. Okay, so I catch the board on the injured side and the wrist on the non-injured side, and I tie the swath knot here.
Catch the board on the non-injured side?
Catch the board on the injured side, so you want to go under the board, okay, and I go between the wrist and the board on the hand that's injured. And then I check pulsometer and sensory again. But it is there.
Cool.
Questions about this? So obviously we're not going to sling and swath a leg, but the bent knee, this part of the bent knee is exactly the same, just without the sling and swath. And it is even more critical that all of those U's are tied extremely tight with the bent knee, otherwise it will not be a secure enough splint to do anything for the patient. So one of the key things here to make sure that it is a really snug splint without kind of cutting off circulation is, as you're tying, keep the cravat ends snug the entire time. Don't yank the knots at the end. It's snug and tight the entire way, and that keeps it secure. It's tight, but it's not like overbearingly tight at any point, okay? And this is kind of one of the trickiest ones to do, yeah.
I was a volunteer for the state exam